Cities that Work is a new initiative that's been set up to get some of the research knowledge on cities out to policymakers. I'm talking to Professor Paul Collier about the new initiative and what we're planning to do. Paul, why are cities so important?
Cities are where economic development, economic transformation really happens. For a city to work as an engine of growth, public policy has to make that city function. A city at its best enables firms to perform what I think of as the miracle of productivity. That transformation depends upon scale and specialisation. We've known ever since Adam Smith, they're the ingredients of productivity. But scale and specialisation depend upon connectivity. Cities give you the opportunity for high connectivity.
If you're going to set up a business, where do you do it? You do it where there's a market, where there are workers, where there are suppliers. That's why density drives productivity, drives economic growth. But the downsides are congestion and contagion. You need the infrastructure to handle transport systems and to handle sewerage and the downside of many people living close together. Supplying that infrastructure is enormously costly, but it's cheaper to get sanitation communications to people when they're living close together.
What's more, a lot of that infrastructure is much easier and therefore cheaper to fit before people come. So trying to plan ahead your infrastructure is good sense and it's cost effective.
But also plays this other role of guiding the development of the city. Where am I going to put my factory?
People rush to benefit from density, but what they produce on their own is congestion. And so you need public policy to override that, partly providing the transport arteries and partly limiting private use. Often individual private cars are the enemy of movement. You need public buses, not private cars very often.
Policy plays two really important roles. One is setting the legal and institutional environment, property rights, land rights in particular. If you're going to use your land effectively and develop, those land rights have to be clear, and that's a policy issue.
And you need those land rights to be marketable so that land use can change.
People holding the land need to be able to develop it. That's one element. And another is they might need to be able to sell it, so transfer it to someone for whom its use would be more valuable.
The private sector can't do that. There has to be government process of registration of land ownership, providing the court system which makes those rights legally enforceable, and the market system that enables people to buy and sell. In Africa, 80% of court cases are disputes about land ownership. That tells you there's a lack of clarity.
Talk about infrastructure, but how do you pay for it? What do you do?
If these cities really are engines of prosperity, they should also be engines for tax revenue. Cities need rather specific forms of taxation that actually captures the rising economic value of that city. The cities we work on haven't at the moment got that tax apparatus in place.
So we want to tax this rising land value and transfer that for the benefit of the city, for investment in infrastructure. How do you actually implement this in a country, well, in an African city?
Typically, not many people actually own land in a city. People who think they own land have got quite a big incentive to actually register. I'm the one who owns this plot. Makes them much more secure. But that same register which claims ownership can create a liability for taxation.
Really are hitting two objectives with that one instrument of just getting proper land registration, land rights clarified.
And the overarching sort of political narrative of why are we doing this, it's because we can use that revenue to build a city that works. Very few people benefit from a zero tax, zero infrastructure, zero public services environment.
Firms, I mean, job creation. Does that follow automatically? I mean, no, it doesn't.
No.
A lot of these cities, it's just informal sector, largely informal sector employment. So getting the firm's investment and the job creation.
Yeah, and we need bigger firms. The most common firm in Dar es Salaam has one worker.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's striking.
Scale, zero. Specialisation, zero. Productivity, doomed. Productivity per worker is 10 times higher in that firm of 50 than in the firm of 4. That's the miracle of productivity. With productivity 10 times higher, incomes are going to be 10 times higher. Sometimes you'll need to cluster firms, and that's what industrial zones do.
Yeah, I mean, firms having access to land is actually important as well. I mean, lots of countries, it's quite difficult to assemble parcels of land. And we think we have good models now of this working. I mean, in Africa even, I guess. I mean, Ethiopia, Addis Ababa is heading in that direction.
Absolutely.
Fairly successfully.
Absolutely. Addis is pioneering that. If you create a high connectivity zone, then firms will come.
There's a big gulf, unfortunately, between the academic research and the practical people, the policymakers, having to take these decisions. Cities That Work is going to bridge that gulf. It's going to make the academic, the research literature more accessible and better disseminated to policy practitioners.
Mayor is not going to wade through economics articles. A mayor needs that literature distilled into something that's focused on policies, decisions, problems, solutions. Yeah. That's what Cities That Work is generating. This is not something being done, as it were, in Washington for cities. It's being done by mayors working with academics to say, this is what we need. The people who take the decisions are empowered to drive the program. A lot of these cities are still in the early stages of growth. In Africa, 2/3 of the city population that will be there in 2050, 2/3 of it hasn't arrived yet. So let's plan for the 2/3 that's going to arrive in the next 30 years or so, and not just the third that's there.
2/3 being something over 500 million people, which is the total, very close to the total urban population of Europe and North America combined. So building that much additional urban fabric over the next 30 years is an astonishing measure of the challenge that's faced.
It's huge. It's the biggest single transformation that our planet will see in the next century. Cities That Work is the practical information toolkit for let's do it right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tony.
Okay, thank you, Paul.